Good morning, everybody. My name's Steve. I'm the mental health nurse, and I'm going to be your tutor for the Learning and Skills Mentor. Now, before we start, I'm not just a nurse, I am also a qualified teacher. I have been since 2009, and I'm also a fellow with the Society of Education and Training. What that means for you, it means that the evidence in which we use for your teacher learning materials is contemporary. It's coming directly out of the initial teacher training frameworks. And if you are working towards your qualified teacher status, so if you're going to do the award in education and training or the diploma in education and training, I can then mentor you right through to becoming QTLS registered, which is qualified teacher in the lifelong sector. So all very exciting stuff. So less of the upsell and more of the what's in this induction. So this induction covers the basics. We're going to cover what the apprenticeship is, what the duties are, and what the endpoint assessment plan looks like. And we're then going to look at your teaching and learning material for this standard. We'll then talk about the additional on-program stuff or training modules, which are bolt-ons, which are classed as social value stuff. So they're not part of this, they are social value, meaning it's not a gateway requirement, but we've added them in because we think it adds value to what we're doing. Now, let's just start. So this standard is a relatively new standard. It was only approved this year. It comes up as a level 4. And the idea really of the Learning and Skills Mentor from an occupational point is you can work in any organization in any area with this, because every single business requires somebody responsible for growing talent. It's a given. So whether it's retail, hospitality, the voluntary sector, or the health sector, everybody needs that learning and skills mentor. And the role is about empowering the organizations to take full responsibility over their governance of teaching and learning and the quality of teaching and learning. And in a time where teaching and learning is becoming so much more expensive and we're having to cut back, it just makes so much more sense that you're able to deliver high quality teaching and learning to your staff through your own channels, because it's a way of saving money off the bottom line. So if you're looking at sustainability, then this is an absolute way to go. The purpose of the Learning Skills Mentor is to support individuals or groups through a learning and development process to a degree and a goal. Now, we're not just going to be focusing on NVQs or apprenticeships. We're talking about CPD, so continuing professional development short courses, right through to a full teaching framework. They also need to be responsible for monitoring the mentoree, providing ongoing support and feedback, development plans, and their own professional development. They will typically work within their own areas of knowledge, and what we're asking for is that they have at least a minimum of a level 3 within their sector, or they have at least 2 years experience within the role, because ultimately if you're going to be passing on knowledge, then you need to have that experience within the industry yourself. So let's look at the duties in which the apprentice will cover during their Learning and Skills Mentor. Now, this is a 12-month program. We're going to cover one duty a month, so it's quite fast-paced in that respect. Each duty is then made up of knowledge, skills, and behaviours. So as we cover each duty, we will naturally be linking that in, and as I deliver the classes, I'll be naturally linking that back to the skills, knowledge, and behaviours. And the endpoint assessment is based upon the skills, knowledge, and behaviours that ultimately link back to these duties. So it's a tiered effect. So what we like to say is the duty is the learning outcome, which is the big picture. Underneath the duty, we then have what's called assessment criteria, and that's the breakdown. So that's the small pieces of the jigsaw that make the big picture. Let's look at these duties. So duty 1 then, in our first month, we're going to look at planning and conducting and recording monitoring activities that support progress. We'll consider legal and ethical frameworks, including confidentiality and safeguard. So in other words, we're going to start to understand, what does planning, learning look like for somebody? How do we record that plan, and how do we monitor progress? So In the old days, we used to call them ILPs, individual learning plans. Nowadays, they have a much more fluidity title, such as development plans or progress plans or performance development reports. You can call it whatever you want within your organisation. But what we want to do is we want to kind of make it sound motivating and buy-in. If we give it too much of a long-winded title, people switch off. So that's duty 1. Duty 2, we look at strategies to enable and maintain boundaries. So we're looking at recognizing the starting point for the mentoree. We look at development points, we look at their potential barriers, and then we look at other stakeholders. So for this member of staff, where are they starting? Where are they going? How are they going to get there? And who is involved within that process? So where's the buy-in coming from? Duty 3 looks at selecting and monitoring methods, tools, and techniques to support the mentoree, and looking at those tools and being responsive to meet the individual needs. So here we go back to real fundamental basics of teaching and learning. What's the learning style of the individual? What's their preferred methodology? How do they like to learn? If we put the learner at the center of the journey, what does that look like? So how will they access their VLE, their virtual learning environments? Do they have digital poverty? Do they have the digital skills enabling them to access this stuff? What's their reading like? Do they have any neurodivergence? Is there any access to requirement stuff? What does that all look like? So we're looking at that there. Equally, if they prefer face-to-face, do they prefer online? They may have it as a preference, but is it sustainable? Is it cost effective? Are you able to deliver that? So again, just looking at how you're going to create this blended learning environment, meaning using all these different techniques to best fit that mentoree. Duty 4, so month 4, we're going to look at awareness of our own values and beliefs and behaviours and how our behaviours affect others. So ultimately, we are meant to be role models. We're meant to be leading from the front. We're meant to be this inspiring guru of knowledge, which is approachable, adaptable, flexible, friendly, personal-centered, and understanding the needs of the business and understanding the needs of the learner. And we have to understand this transference and counter-transference. So if we're having a bad day, that's going to ripple out to our team. So we have to be this high-energy ball of light, trying to inspire people, because most people's view of training is, oh my God, not another training course. And what we want is them leaving us going, oh my God, I want to attend another one. So how do we pick that energy up? How do we make learning inspiring? How do we get everybody excited? And that comes from our values and our belief systems. And if we have a very fixed ideology, so if we have a very fixed way of thinking, that's clearly going to pass down onto others. My method, my way of thinking is, I believe we're all individual. I believe we all have the ability to learn. And I believe that learning is far better through experiential learning, through hands-on, through active learning, through doing. And I think all of the knowledge stuff just happens in the background over a period of time, but the actual skills piece can be hands-on and quite high energy. And I think my belief is, if I give it 110%, they're going to walk away from that session going, that's Steve, he was barking mad, but I enjoyed it. And that's what you want, because everyone remembers a good session, because there are very far and few between. But I'm sure if you were to reflect now, there'll be many classes that you've sat on and you just drifted through that class. You get to the end, you go, what was that about? No, I didn't. So was it effective? Was it a good use of time? The answer is no. So how are you going to be that inspiring individual person? So we look at your values and beliefs and your schooling there. Duty 5 then looks at providing support to the mentoree, providing information, advice and guidance. So IAG is a fundamental principle of any teaching and learning. And what we mean by this is getting in, have we given you the right information on the course, getting or moving on. So how do we support you through that course, and getting off? So where does your progress go? So 3 steps: getting in, moving on, moving off. And there's a process called Matrix. Matrix is a quality assurance process around teaching and learning. So even if you don't use Matrix within your organization, it's a great framework for teaching and learning, because it will provide you with all of the tools for good quality advice and guidance. And remember, most people that do learning are doing it because they've either been forced into it, or they're doing it because they generally have a goal at the end of it. If we know why everyone is doing something, if we can get everyone's goal, then we can use that as a motivational tool. So, for example, most people say to me, "Oh, I want to be a nurse." When times get hard, or we get this kind of, we call it the graveyard shift. It's normally about midpoint of a long program where people just want to give up because it just feels like it's going on for too long. That's when we have to be really motivational, when we go back and look at their goals and go, look, these are the skills that you're going to need to be a nurse: resilience, strength, compassion, all of this stuff. And that gets you over the tipping point and it drives you towards the end. If we know that, we can use that in our story to motivate people. But if we don't know their stories, if we don't know why they're doing it, it's very hard to keep somebody motivated. So that's the IAG piece. And equally, we need to know our own professional boundaries. So where's the line, and when can we refer on? So referring on is going to be things around your neurodivergence. So are they dyslexic? Are you picking up signs of ADHD? Are you picking up signs of autism? Are you picking up signs of intellectual difficulties? Are you picking up signs of poor mental health? Are you picking up signs of them just being burnt out or fatigued? So that kind of stuff. So that pastoral support and welfare to managing them. Duty 6 then looks at establishing rigorous evaluation processes for the mentoree, and then using reflection for that reflective practice piece. So reflective practice is something all professionals are now doing. We've been doing it for a very long time in nursing. And really, reflective practice is where we sit down and we go, what worked, what didn't work, why did it work, why didn't it work, and what we're going to do differently next time. And that's your kind of Ralph model. Gibbs is there. Gibbs has a reflective cycle. His, to be fair, is pretty hardcore. It looks at each of the steps of what's going on, so what you're thinking, how you're feeling, what happened, what went well, what didn't went well, and you do an analysis on all of it. So Gibbs is really good at the end of a program, I think, because it gives you quite a thorough analysis, where ongoing you want something quite quick. Did that work? Did that not work? Did that work? Why did that work? Did that not work? Why didn't that work? What am I going to do differently next time? And every single session, we should be getting feedback. So we should be evaluating that. And it might just be, you know what, that day you were having a bad day. It might be the equipment didn't work, your plan B wasn't great, or whatever it is. Or it might just be the course content in your head you wrote and you thought this is brilliant, but it just went over everyone's head. And I've been, guilty of that maybe 1 or 2 times, where I've overcomplicated a course and thought, for me, this is really straightforward. But then my audience just flew over their heads. So again, just recognizing those signs when you're losing people, just to bring it back and to keep people in the room. Duty 7 then looks at your own effectiveness and your own practice, your own self-development. So if we're looking to working you towards QTLS status or becoming a member of the Society of Education and Training, what does your development plan look like? How are you going to get there? Who's going to support you? Who's going to mentor you, especially after this program? Duty 8 looks at making sustainable information decisions and approaches to planning and conducting records and evaluating and monitoring. So when we talk about sustainability, we're talking about time management, cost-effective solutions, environmental impact, your 22050 green strategy, your ISO, it's 14,001 environmental standards. What is it that you're going to do to allow you to grow quickly, but take away all the admin? I mean, there's only really one answer, right? It's going to be AI technology, and it's all going to be online. Because if we take away all the burden, if we take away all the paperwork, if everything's on your phone, it's an app, you've got instant data, it's sustainable. So again, looking at our digital skills there. And then finally, Duty 9 looks at maintaining records and monitoring practice and recording continuing professional development activities. So just looking at your ongoing processes there. So the 9 duties, really nice light touch to become a learning skills mentor. Now, after this, you'll go through this process and we complete the teaching learning around month 9, month 10, and then we're going to have a couple of months left to prepare us for the EPA. Now, the EPA is the endpoint assessment, and the EPA has then the assessment plan and gateway. So your gateway requirements is when we sit down with you, the training provider, so us and the training provider, the employer, and you, and we go through the skills, knowledge, and behaviours. We tick it off and we go, have we met all of these? If we say yes, we then put you into gateway, and that means we're preparing you for the endpoint assessment. So teaching learning formally comes to an end, and we just get you ready for your exams. Now, for gateway on this qualification, there are no on-programme requirements, meaning there's no diploma that you need to complete or no other online qualifications. It's just this teaching learning. You also have to do your English and maths functional skills, and you have to prepare a portfolio of evidence for the professional discussion. So again, that last 2 months, we're going to be preparing your portfolio. Now, you will have had that evidence along the way. So as you're planning your 12 months, each month you'll be doing mini case studies. That becomes evidence for your portfolio. As you produce your training material or teaching learning material, that becomes evidence for your portfolio. As you do your analysis and your evidence and your self-assessment reports, all of that becomes evidence for your portfolio. So it's not like you're going to have to then sit there and make a whole portfolio, as long as you're doing it throughout the year. Now, throughout the EPA, so through the endpoint assessments, once that's been confirmed and the endpoint assessment's done, you're then going to sit your endpoint exam. Now, your endpoint exam looks at, or the assessment plan for this looks at 2 methods of assessment. One is an observation, and the other is professional discussion. So it's going to be no surprise that you're going to be observed delivering a teaching and learning experience. So that could be on a one-to-one or in a group. But again, you'll decide that with your EPAO. And the other then is a professional discussion. And that's discussing the portfolio of evidence. So the observation is roughly 2 hours long, give or take 10% either side. So it's a good piece of work that you'll be delivered. And actually, I've done lots of teaching and learning for many, many years. And I found the shorter the time for teaching and learning, the harder it is. The longer the observation, the easier it is, because you just end up in a flow. You know, when you think about it, 2 hours, 10-minute introduction to the session, 15, 20 minutes you going through a couple of PowerPoint slides, a group activity to show class involvement, a bit of group discussion back, a 5-10 minute break, go back to do the next piece, a bit of an evaluation. Those 2 hours just fly by. So I think longer is easier. You'll be given 2 weeks notice about what it is that you need to do and to prepare for. And then there's a 30-minute discussion afterwards based on that. So that's nice and straightforward. And I think they said it's about 5 questions, 5 follow-up questions from the observation. Again, the professional discussion then, the professional discussion is a 2-way conversation regarding the evidence that you put in there. The apprentice will be given 14 days notice. You'll be given at least 8 questions that you'll work through. And again, it's not like direct question. It's not like, what are the laws and legislations of? It'll be, talk to me about this. What do you do in your place of work here? Give me that example of this. And that should be an hour. Okay, so nice and straightforward. So in all, your endpoint exam is roughly 3 hours in total, 2 hours for an observation, 1 hour for your professional discussion. The professional discussion can be done face-to-face or via online video recording, normally video, because it's a lot easier. If you go to the Institute for Apprenticeship website, you will see a breakdown of the pass and merit grades. However, they are in your course manual and they are online in your VLE as well. So everything is there for you progress and work your way through. Now, as I was saying, throughout the program, we are offering additional social value stuff. Now, that additional social value stuff is the opportunity to work towards your award in education and training, which is stage 1 teacher training. If you've already got that, we are then offering an opportunity to work towards your diploma in education and training. T's and C's apply, but we'll talk to you about that on a one-to-one basis if that's what you want to do. But then there's also work around the training module. So our training module, basically you have 15 sessions to learn. And those 15 sessions are going to be things like first aid, movement handling, infection control. We give you access to all of the material. So it's not like you have to make it up. You have all of the material, you have all the online resources, and you have all of the online assessment tools as well. So it's dead easy to deliver. So it's not like you have to make things up. Although what we would expect you to do is quality assure them. So making sure they're fit for purpose, get your evaluation, and then showing those updates. And that's what you need to do as part of your apprenticeship. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my screen and I'm going to show you your online teaching and learning material. So bear with me. Hopefully this works. Lovely. So when you log in to your dashboard, now this is mine, just so you're aware, there's lots more on here. You will have your apprenticeship induction session. So you work through that. It'll take you a few hours. It's just about your rights as an apprentice. Dead easy to get through. You then have your learning, your welfare and well-being. So that's all your rights as a learner, how to maintain your mental health while studying and working. So that's there. You may or may not have to do functional skills. So that's there. And then finally, you will then have access to the learning and skills mentor standards. So that's this. So this is what it looks like. Now, I'm going to show you student view. So basically, when you log in, this is Canvas. This is what it looks like. You've got your welcome bar here. You're going to click on the grade bar and you start your learning. So you click on welcome, you go to the occupational summary, up it pops, you read that, there's a next button there, you click next. You cannot skip any of these sessions. If you skip it, it means you haven't read it. And it also means you're going to be missing important knowledge. And the computer will not let you see your assessments unless you've gone through each part. And what happens as you go through it, it ticks it off and it marks it. So again here, everything we've just talked about the EPA, you can see there we talked about your assessment and the end exam. So we just click through that. And then finally, you can see markers done. So once you've marked as done, you're good to go. Now, if you need to go back, you can go back to home. And what you should see there then is once the session's complete, it ticks off in green. Simple, right? Good. Now, on the left-hand side is your navigation bars. So we've got our home button, which takes us back to the home screen. Our announcements, which you can see on the right-hand side, are under the to-do list. I want you to click on those and read them. So the way that we communicate with you globally through the kind of intranet system, it's through that. The assignments is what you're going to be doing on a monthly basis. So each month, you will cover skills and knowledge. Okay? Because that's the way that it's done. You have to cover your skills and knowledge. So here, so it doesn't start there till month 2. So here we've got plan, collect, and monitor and record activities for the progression of the mentoree. And as we go down here, we've got a scenario. So it's a short written answer. You fill that in and mark it. And then once you've done that, that then covers the knowledge and skills. So you're only doing one short reflective account. What then happens is we mark that. So that becomes in your grade report. So your grade report is then here. There we go. And as you do it, you'll get your grade. You can then print your grades if you want to keep those. And the grades don't count towards your endpoint assessment. It's not like it contributes towards the pass, merit, or distinction. What it does is it helps us guide you to your final grade. So we're roughly going to know where you're sitting at. And it's nice to see how you're working. So that's what the grade report does. People are obviously the people in your group. Pages are the pages that you're clicking on. So in that grey box, those. Files is where you will find anything uploaded. So in there, you'll see the books. So you can see the books there. And that's the recommended reading. So that's your books that we've written for the course. And you can see that they're all there for you. So again, you can download those and read them. So all about preparing you for your EPA. Your syllabus is here. So the syllabus breaks everything down. Modules goes back to the learning modules. So really simple to use. All you're going to be doing as the Learning and Skills Mentor is clicking through this each month, completing that one assignment, and then just making sure you're doing the practical skills. And as we said, the practical skills in your place of work will be mentoring and supporting teaching and learning. Okay, so that's the part of your process. You've got your calendar there, so for when things come up, you've got your inbox if you want to talk to us. So a really nice and simple process. Now, you need to be committed to at least 5 to 7 hours a week, just logging in, completing your work, reading your material, doing the over and above stuff, and recording all this. So you have your on the job and off your job hours, which is obviously all explained in Induction. As you do that, you need to be committed to studying. Now, I know time's difficult and I know you'll find it hard, but ultimately you've got your mandatory time and then you've got your additional time. And like I said, as a nurse, when I've done this and I've done apprenticeships and training, I appreciate the fact that it is difficult to juggle everything. However, you are investing in yourself. And if you can't find time to invest in yourself, how can you possibly be mentoring and developing others? Because you need to role model this. So again, it's not uncommon to be sitting there in your lunch break with a video on watching it. That's just normal practice for us in education and training, because ultimately time is a very precious commodity, and you have to upskill yourself. So it isn't just about your apprenticeship, it's about your CPD, it's about your extended reading, it's about preparing your essays. You can't possibly do that all in your apprenticeship time, because you have to have time to develop yourself and reflect and grow as well. So just try and get yourself a student plan together where you are giving yourself adequate time to grow and learn. And evidence is definitely pointing towards micro learning. Blocks of half an hour learning are far more effective than sitting down and trying to do large blocks of learning. So as we go through, what I wanted to show you is what you'll see as a learning skills mentor. So as you're supporting other people within your organization to grow, what happens there is, I'm going to go and show you one which has got lots of stuff on. So if we go to this one, the person that I'm going to show you won't mind. So we click here. So as we click on the people, what we see on each learner is the fact that we've got their student grades, their interaction reports, and their access reports. And here we can see quite clearly how many times you're logging on. We can see it. So don't try to hide it, just log on, do the work, be committed, because ultimately, if we have to chase you and we have to be pushing you, we have to say, are you the right role model for this particular role? So please be highly engaged, because remember, you're setting the standards for everyone else in the organization. So if you're not highly motivated, how are you going to get people to replicate that? So in a nutshell, what we've covered today is we've looked at the standard, we've gone through the duties, we've got a clear understanding of what those duties are. We've looked at the EPA and the assessment method, we've talked about the gateway, and we've shown you the teaching and learning resources. So next session, we're going to look at duty 1, looking at planning and supporting those mentorees. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, drop us an email or by all means send us a WhatsApp and we'll get back to you. So I wish you all the best of luck and we'll see you online next week. Bye for now, everyone. Toodles.